So welcome to the All That Jazz podcast. I'm your host, Matthias, and I have with me John O'Brien, and I've known John for a couple of years, and we met in Glasgow when I attended his comedy workshop, and it was great fun. I had almost no sleep. I went right
I
for my
wasn't
night shift. Right. No, but it was great. Despite the lack of sleep, I really enjoyed it. So welcome, John, to the show.
good to see you, Matt. I always called you Matt. So how do you pronounce your? Because I think you just because you were in Scotland, you just use Matt.
Yes. I use Matt, or my real name is Matthias, but people call me Matt or
Matthias.
Matt Jazz.
Aye. Because we always just called you Matt.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
aye.
And that's where my the name of the podcast comes from, because somebody was like, "Well, people call you Mad Jazz. Why don't you just call it All That Jazz?"
All
So
night
it's like,
jazz, cool man.
yeah. So how did you get into comedy? Because you initially I think you told me that comedy was something that you didn't think you could do. Like you were too frightened maybe to be in front of a crowd.
No, well, I don't think it was something I never thought I could do. It was maybe something I never thought. Um, Society thought, it's like when you're brought up, you're kind of taught to get a real job.
Right.
So you're putting a so I kind of always wanted to do comedy, but I was kind of scared of telling people that I wanted to do comedy, like family and stuff like that. So it's a bit a weird one, but I always kind of thought that I could do it. I think.
Right. So it's like other people basically. I have the same, like certain things um that I'm kind of like, even this, I don't really tell people unless I put it on my Facebook, but I don't really tell people what I'm doing. It's just like
It's fucked up. It's weird.
yeah.
It's
It's
shit.
like
Innit? It's a terrible way to think. I think because the amount of things people hold back from because they're scared of what people think.
yeah.
It's ridiculous, man. It's crazy. And I still do that as well with some things, but it's crazy.
But for comedy, did you find that as time went on, did you care less and less about what people thought?
Yeah, of course. When I first started, I did. I'm just trying to look at the camera because I get the habit of looking at you rather than the
No,
camera.
no,
So
it's fine. I'm looking at you anyway, so it's
I know, but I
I
know
can
it's
see
just
that.
in my head. So,
Yeah.
this is my brain going blah blah blah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what was I saying there? So I did. I started similar. Well, I done a comedy workshop years ago. I don't know if you know. There's a woman in Glasgow does it called Viv G.
I think you told me, but I never went to her course. Yeah.
So Viv's awesome. So I done. I think it must have been 21 years ago. Holy shit!
Mm-hmm.
And I done Viv's course, right? But it was like I'm sure it was during the week, every night for like 8 weeks or something. And I was still living with my parents, and I was kind of leaving every Tuesday night or something to go to this workshop. I never told them where I was going,
Right.
so it was like, "Where are you going?" I'm taking heroin. I'm a rent boy. I'm a rent boy. So I would tell them anything rather than I'm taking drugs. I'm selling my kidneys. So I'd tell them anything rather than the fact that I was doing something that I
Was
wanted
this
to do.
was this back in was it this in the 80s or 90s?
I'm not that old, man. So
Uh, I don't know.
so 21 years ago. So
21. Okay.
1998, I think 99.
Okay. Okay. And that prepared you for how did you get your first gig, and did you bomb? Like bombing means, like, for the audience that doesn't know,
Aye,
like
no, so the
that.
first, I think the workshop is a good starting point. But I always say when my workshop is, I'm not going to make you like the next big thing. So I just give people a starting point, and
Yeah.
then they need to go out and do gigs all over the place.
I
It's
think
like
that's fair advertisement. You can't just be like, oh, unrealistic expectations. You're gonna
uh,
be the next big thing. Yeah.
I can't say by the end of this workshop you're going to be instantly Robin Williams or Billy Connolly as soon as you do your first gig, because you need to go out and have bad gigs, have good gigs, and learn every time you do it.
Is that necessary that basically that you bomb on stage and so you see what works and what doesn't work,
Oh,
basically?
totally. I think I've definitely learned more from shit gigs uh, than good gigs.
Okay. So
So,
I'm interested in what are some of your worst experiences on stage, if you want to talk about that.
well, I'm rocking now. Oh no! Oh. You know the thing is, Matt. You remember the worst gigs? Well, the thing about I think the worst gigs, you have better stories from them.
Yeah.
So I could tell you about the best gigs I've had, but it'd bore you to death. You know, so it was this time the audience loved me. It was amazing. They laughed at everything. They gave me a standing ovation and shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
boring. But you want to have stories where people threaten you and shit like that. You know, hate you. So that's where you learn more. I think. I try to think. Um, one of the worst ones. I remember one where I did it in one in Glasgow. Where I went on, and when you're quite new, you kind of start off saying things. You think you have to shock the audience,
Right.
right? So you say things that are shocking, right? Because that's what I find with new comedians that want to shock and do stuff about sex and masturbating, all the filthy stuff.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with doing that stuff, but that's the first thing you go for, and you want to shock people. Um, so I think as I said something, I think this particular gig, I said something to somebody in the audience, and it just wasn't very nice. It was about their appearance or something, and that was the first thing I said. And from that moment, there was probably about 100 people in there, and they all fucking hated me.
Oh.
Instantly, they hated me, right? They hated me, right? So they just hated me, and so I kept going. I tried to win them back, but I couldn't win that because maybe if I'd done it years later with more experience, I could win them back. But at that point, I was fucked. So I didn't get them back. And the audience just hated me. They were all sitting going, get off, you dick." And eventually I left the stage. I think I got applause because I was leaving. and
Right.
So I just remember getting up the back of the gig and other comedians just kind of looking at me going, what was that? And I'm sure one of them gave me a hug.
Wow.
There was nothing much you could do. They gave me a hug. And I remember after the gig, I was just having a beer at the back with the other acts. And you know, sometimes after, when you do a gig, one of the good things is comedian audience members come and shake your hand after the gig,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they will go, "Well done, that was good fun." So I remember there was maybe about four of the comedians standing in a row. So they come up and they kind of about the first guy, that was brilliant, mate. That was awesome. The next one, that was great. Next guy, that was hilarious. Then they got to me, they just looked at the ground and left. So they just completely ignored me. Went, "Oh shit, it was that guy."
Wow.
So that's just. But I think you've got to just kind of go. That's where you learn shit. I think when you get to a point where you can have a gig like that and not give a shit, it's when you start getting good at it.
Right. You need to have a thick skin. You need to have be
Aye,
like almost like an experimenter to see what jokes work and what jokes don't work, and then discard what doesn't work.
aye. Because I think when I started, Matt, I remember if I had a bad gig like that, I think that one was quite early on. I feel like shit for about a week. maybe
Oh
longer. You
wow.
just kind of go, oh fuck, what the, you know, you kind of think all these years you wanted to do comedy, and then that hits you, going, I can't do this. I'm shit. Your whole world kind of comes down about you like fucking hell, and you feel the humiliation and all these horrible feelings. But then eventually you get to a point where now if I have a bad gig, I'll kind of go, I'll have 10 minutes where I'll go, I fucked that up, didn't I? But then I'll have a beer and I'll go, oh well, shit happens, and I'll move on straight away because I can work out what I done or where it went wrong. Like, okay, I done this, I done that. I never built enough rapport with the audience. I fucked it up. Cool.
Right, right, right.
I
Um,
let it go. I went to the next one.
for me, being in your class was also kind of difficult being on stage, and because everybody's not just there for the jokes, but they're thinking about their own stuff, you know.
Ah, really?
So and there's only like five or six people, including you,
Ah,
in the audience, and
aye.
you are going out on a limb, and you have these jokes that are totally unpolished, and you don't know if they'll be even funny and all that. So it's really hard to get a laugh.
Yeah, yeah.
So would you say that once you get bigger and you get a bigger crowd, it's much easier to get that going, right?
Oh, totally. And I always found with the workshop, it's definitely like that because you're right. Because I remember when I started, there'd be other people in the class doing their bit, and I'd be kind of going, trying to engage and watch them, but at the same time going, and through my head going, what am I? Oh shit! And try to work out the bit I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally different from doing it in the workshop than from an actual live audience.
Yeah.
Because the live
Yeah.
audience, they're there to enjoy themselves. So I definitely a bigger audience, the easier it is.
Right. I regret not actually doing, because you remember at one point you encouraged me. You're like, "Wow, you maybe you'll be able to do a one at the S Bar, which is where in Glasgow the course was at the time." And but I never did it. You know,
And if you never actually do one,
no, I didn't do it.
we'll need to sort that out when you come back.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Uh,
yeah. But the thing is, be like flopping on or just bombing on the jokes is a crucial part, because it's like when I met some comedians there, they told me that you have to go out there and test your material. And somebody told me there was this guy that told me 99% of jokes that I wrote I had to throw out and all that. He made it seem like it's really like almost like physical labor. It's like a really intensive, long-term process.
I wouldn't go that far, but I know what it means. But I
Yeah, yeah,
definitely it's
yeah.
all about editing. Um, it's throwing stuff away because see if you're right, the more you're right, there's only a certain percentage of it that'll be good.
Right.
You
Okay.
have to write and write and write, and if you write like 2 hours a day every day, which I don't, but I should. If you get like 5 minutes of good material at the end of the week, that's good.
Right.
You
Wow,
know,
that's quite a bit of
well,
work.
I'm just that might that's it'll be different for different people, but you
Yeah.
know, it's all about editing. It's like mining. It's like mining for gold.
Right. Do you
So you
find
write all these ideas. You go right, okay. You think they're all good, but maybe just a small proportion of that will actually hit.
right? Do you find there's any now that you've done it for a while, do you find that there's any conditions that you put yourself under that you're more creative?
Um, well, I find for me, Matt, I'm kind of playing about with a few things just now. I'm more creative talking, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of the time, if I'm trying out new stuff, I've got a bit of biscuit on my computer. I'm just there's just some crumbs on my PC there on my laptop. So I find that if I kind of start off with ideas, and I'll kind of go right. you know, I'll have this idea, and I know roughly where it's going, but I don't write it word for word. But I'm trying to do more of that. So I'll have a half an idea, but then I'll go on stage with that idea, and I'll just kind of improvise with it.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, you know, I'll kind of go, so I'll improvise with it, and then when I come off stage, I'll go, okay, I kind of get where that idea is going, and I'll gradually work it out that way. That's for me, and at the moment, I'm doing kind of more videos for my Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that if I have an idea, I'll maybe take a few takes on my phone. So if I'm actually talking to my phone, I can find where the funny is rather than writing it down.
Right.
That makes sense, because I done a wee bit on a wee kind of Zoom type gig the other day. I had to record like a 10-minute set. I done it in my car, and I kind of left it last minute, so I kind of wrote down my ideas, and it took me about maybe 4 or 5 takes. So I would do it, and then kind of just kind of go with the flow, and then I'd kind of go, I'd stop and go, okay, I know how that worked, and I'd kind of work out where the funny bits were, if that makes sense.
Right. But is it would you say that it's not just you, but you need other people to see how the joke works?
Definitely as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So aye. So if I've got a new bit, obviously there's been no gigs for like 6 months. So
Right.
the first bit of the process for me is to make it do on camera until what I find is funny. Then I'd take that bit and take it out to an audience and kind of refine it from there.
Yeah. But now there's no audience because of the COVID-19 stuff,
Aye.
so it's a
So
lot harder now.
aye. So I just need to do the camera, but you know, if I'm writing loads of new stuff, which I plan to do, but I just go out and do loads of open mic gigs and
Hmm.
work it out from there.
Oh, okay. So that's where people can start as well, like open mic. You just go
Yeah.
there and you have like your 5 minute set that, as they call it, which is basically jokes, roughly 5 minutes, and you just go on
Right.
and see
Do
what
it.
the audience says if they
Yeah.
laugh.
If they laugh, they don't laugh. If they hate you, if they chase you.
Right. Is there sometimes when you make a joke that is kind of like you didn't think much of it and you would like kind of throw away joke, but then the audience really loves it and
Oh,
you're like,
yeah,
whoa.
I totally. I've had, hang on, I've had like bits of material that I've done, and it's maybe with a like, because I find the biggest laughs I can get, because I think I'm quite good at improvising or
Right.
trying to be naturally funny. So I've got my material, but sometimes the reaction to what I'm saying is funnier than the actual material, and that kind of it becomes,
Its
it's
own
like
thing.
that becomes a bigger thing. Like a throwaway line can spark off an idea, and then that becomes a bit
Hmm.
of material. So I've definitely found that if I've got a written bit and then my thoughts on stage while I'm doing it kind of
Right.
sparks a new bit of material that I wasn't
Right.
expecting.
Do you ever find that when you do, if you do the same set over and over, like during the festival, unfortunately this year there was no festival, but when you do a festival, like when you do the same sets every day, and I don't know, I think you had a 1 hour show, right? I once saw your 1 hour show, and you do like the same thing every day. Do you find it a bit, do you find that you say most of the same stuff, or that it depends on the audience, the vibe of the audience, that it totally changes in a way the material, your delivery?
I not totally. I change. I've got like a start, middle, end. That the stuff I was doing, but
Hmm.
I totally change depending on what the audience are like. So I'll improvise because I always get to know. I always try to get to know the audience a bit when I start. So that definitely changes how I kind of try to work it out. So I'll change. See if it's a what it's like that. it's like if you meet somebody who's quiet,
Right.
somebody who's quite low key. If you get in, see what I mean, because you're quite a kind of relaxed, kind of, um,
Yeah.
you're like, to me, you were like a stoner when it came across. Like,
No,
this is that, man.
I don't like people always surprised. I say I don't smoke weed, but
I
yeah,
know.
people are like, oh, you seem stoned. I'm like, oh, okay.
I know that's how I always felt. Matt's like the stoner, hey man. So I
Yeah.
would come in going, all right, Matt, how you doing, Matt? Can I get in going? So if I come in too hyperactive, you'd be like, holy shit, calm down.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay. Yeah.
Right, so if you meet somebody, so if I've got an audience that are quite kind of subdued, you know, if I maybe get kind of slightly older people that are in drinking coffee, I'll meet them at that level, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And I'll maybe try and bring them up a wee bit. So you kind of meet them at that level, and then you bring them up a wee bit to your level. But then if you get like a Saturday night audience that's full of drunk Glaswegians, they're all a bit, "Rah!" So that
So you need to
means
be really high. Yeah, yeah.
so if it's a bit of a crazy audience, I'll put the volume up on my crazy. So I think I've got like a crazy dial. You
Right.
know, so if it's a Jews audience, I'll go, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. But if it's a crazy audience, I'll out crazy them. So I'll try and be the perceived as the craziest in the room.
Okay.
So I'll get and go, you know, I'm gonna begin if it's a rowdy crowd, I'm gonna begin down a beer and do stuff like that gets me on their side. So
Right.
that
I love
it
that. That
changes
it's
the vibe. It's the fact, so it's the energy that changes.
right, right. So you kind of tailor made to the audience because you always, as a comedian, you always have to think of the audience. What does the audience love? What is and even the delivery you said you change it. I find
Aye,
that really, really cool.
aye.
Were
Because
you ever okay?
if you
Go
give me
ahead.
the exact same delivery every time, it won't match. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't match. You need to change. It could be the volume. If there's a lot of noise, you speak louder. You know, or
Right,
sometimes
right.
if it's loud, if this takes a bit of balls. Sometimes if it's a rowdy crowd, you speak lower. That sometimes works as well.
Really?
See if it's a bit rabbly, you get in, you can go hello, and people want to hear you, so
Yeah.
they'll
So they talk, calm
go
down.
down. Aye, aye.
Mm.
That takes a bit of balls to do that, but it works.
Interesting. So how do you deal with heckling? Is one of the things in comedy. So that people just say, oh, you're shit, or you suck, or whatever they yell.
Aye.
And you probably dealt with some of that. So how do you deal with a heckler?
I just I don't think about it. There's a lot of comedians who have heckler put down lines.
Wow,
Right?
like for example.
See, I've not got any because I don't use them.
Okay, okay.
Right. There's some like I'm trying to think of so if somebody's chatting in the audience, I don't like using them because loads of other comedians use it, and I just don't like doing that. So
Right.
one where people are chatting and people go, "Where did you learn to whisper in a helicopter?" Which is like a common line that some comedians use. Um,
Mm,
that's,
yeah. uh,
so it works. It does work, but I don't like using it. I try to react to what's being said rather than
right.
you know.
That being really present and then trying to
Aye,
add on to it.
aye. Because when you're out with your friends, Matt. I know you don't drink, but if you're out with your friends, just wherever you go, and your friend gives you shit,
Right.
a bit of banter, you react naturally.
Yeah, of course.
So I try to treat it like that. So I'm in the room with friends. Somebody says something, I'll just react to it. So I don't like trying to prepare that because the less you prepare for that kind of a thing, the more natural it comes out. For me, anyway.
Right. Yeah, I think that's so. I think even in movies, some movies try to implement a lot of improvising because they
Aye,
find the acting is a bit stale, so they they even the big budget movies sometimes throw in improvised lines because they
Yeah,
work so much better than what they've written.
yeah, yeah, because it's natural. Because
Yeah.
like Robin Williams, yeah, you're a fan of Robin,
Oh yeah, one
like
of
I'm
my
not
favorites.
here anymore, but a lot of his movies, especially the comedy, like I think Good Morning Vietnam, they've
Oh,
just
I
got big,
love that. I love that line.
big chunks where he would just they would improvise. Like Robin, they'd leave a gap in the script just for Robin to do his thing. And the genie as well. Remember the genie that he did, the animation,
I don't
the
remember that movie.
Aladdin,
Okay.
where he played the genie. Most of
Okay.
that improvised, and they done the animation round Robin Williams's improvisation.
Really? I
Aye,
didn't know that. Like
aye,
the cartoon from the
cartoon.
90s.
Aye, so Robin Williams would kind of he would know where the script was, the kind of idea. He'd go off in one of his tangents, but then the animators would take the audio and then do the animation from the audio, which is quite
Right.
cool.
But he was so talented. Like his mind were just racing 200 miles per hour. Like he was way ahead of everybody. Like
It was
I,
awesome.
I saw once on a show he was with Stephen Fry, and even Stephen Fry couldn't keep up with him. He was like
Ah,
Robin Williams was just like boom boom coming out with jokes like really
aye.
high energy, but like not annoying, like really kind of like clever jokes like, after joke after joke, like
And he had
improvise. Um,
and he had so many characters as well.
yeah,
You know, if he was on an interview, he would get like 7 different characters all interacting, and it was crazy shit. It was brilliant.
yeah. I saw there was one of my favorite late night shows with Craig Ferguson, who's also from Glasgow. He went to US, and I think him and Robin Williams had probably one of the best rapports I've seen.
Yeah,
And they would
yeah.
play different
Aye.
characters, and he and Robin Williams at some point played the Scottish hairdresser, and he was very good at imitating Scottish accent for some reason, like very kind of such strong accent that it's hard to understand. you know.
Racist.
Did you say racist?
Told you a racist.
What a legend.
It was awesome, man. It was great.
So do you find that okay, this is an interesting discussion because some comedians like Jerry Lewis, like old school Jerry Lewis, said he didn't want to go to therapy because he thought that if he went to therapy and became quote unquote happy, that he would lose the material, he would lose that kind of edge for comedy. And there's
Aye.
I think a documentary out a couple of years ago. I forget the name, but I watched it, and it was about comedians talking about if trauma or even depression or pain in their life, if that helps their comedy or not. So what is your opinion on that?
I totally agree in a way. Let me think. No, I agree in a way because I've definitely used comedy for stuff that's kind of got to me. Because when I started doing it, because I think doing comedy, I've got into a lot of self help stuff as well. So doing both has been great. I think
Hmm.
because I was when I was younger, I was very quiet and kind of scared of everything,
Right.
scared of the world. So I think that's probably one of the reasons I've done comedy to kind of get myself out there, or to give myself a challenge or something. But definitely, I think talking about stuff, your issues, because most comedians, their materials based on any kind of issues they've got. Like you
Right.
had Richard Pryor.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
classic.
he was awesome. Like, he was like he had a horrible upbringing. Like I think his mum was a prostitute and
Yeah, brothel. Yeah.
brought up with the mafia
Yeah.
and horrible shit, man. And he used all that in his comedy, and it was brilliant because of it.
Those were some of his best jokes about trying to get a raise or something with the mafia, and the mafia just just thought it was hilarious because they could kill him at any moment.
I probably stopped him from being killed just because he was hilarious.
Right. I think there's a lot of comedians like they get out of like Kevin Hart and there's probably other comedians where they get out of trouble by their wit, by their sheer like
Absolutely.
improvisation in the moment, by jokes.
Yeah, yeah. I can also run as well, Matt, so I'm a good runner. But if the humour doesn't get me out of a situation, I can run. I'll tell you a story
Okay.
about you. I've not used humour a lot from getting out of stuff, but I remember once in Glasgow, like years ago, yeah, maybe 10 years ago or something. I was in a club or something, and we were just we were chatting to some different people. I was chatting to a girl, right? It was nothing more than that. I was just chatting to a girl, and we were having a laugh. And there was a guy there, a wee guy with kind of muscle. There's
Hmm.
a wee guy, probably 5'4" with muscle, a wee angry guy. He just full of steroids and cocaine. He just kind of walking. And so he was kind of trying to talk to this girl, but she didn't really want to talk to him for
Hmm.
some reason. Right, it was just because he was probably an asshole. But he didn't like the fact that me and this girl were having a laugh,
Right.
having a laugh, and he didn't like it. You seen him kind of storming about, going, "What the fuck, what the fuck?" And at one point, they came up to me and he got aggressive. He was in my face. It's going, "Who the fuck do you think they are?" And he was getting really aggressive with me. He was in my face. And at one point, I just looked at him at this point and smiled, and I went, I'd done that. I'd done that to his face, and it totally confused him. And he left. He just he just left. He went outside, and a few minutes later, he came back and apologised.
Really?
And that was
Wow.
because I think there's a thing called like I don't know if you've ever been interested in stuff like NLP, like neuro linguistic programming and stuff.
I have not, but I want to try some of that stuff because I
It's
heard good
interesting,
things.
right? So
Hmm.
there's a thing what I learned from reading a book. It's called a pattern interrupt, right? So basically, what that means is if people work in patterns, right? So if if you get angry, so if somebody gets aggressive with you, you'll either get aggressive back or you'll get kind of what's the word? Kind of submissive or whatever.
Right,
So
right.
you'll either get submissive or you get aggressive back, and it becomes a thing. So this wee guy in his head is either expecting me to get aggressive back. This is his pattern, or uh, get scared and back off.
Hmm.
So the idea of this pattern interrupt thing, your brain runs in patterns. If you do something out with that, it, your brain explodes. So this guy is expecting aggression back or that, and I done went like this, and it totally confused him.
Right.
But he had no
And
idea what to do, and he fucked off. Just total confusion. His brain couldn't cope.
right. It's almost
Amazing.
like in that situation is just fight or flight,
Yep.
but you went out of the box option and then just confused them.
Aye. Aye.
So you
And
mentioned self-help.
aye.
I want to get into that because I am into that stuff myself. So what kind of stuff are you into now, and what is helping you?
Um, I read all sorts too, man. Because I'm always I'm never really kind of look. I don't know what I'm. That's like crocodile there. So I'm never really looking at one thing at the same time. I like all sorts of stuff. I don't know. I'll look at my phone. Hang on. I've got my Kindle here, right? Let's see what
Okay.
I've got. I've got my Kindle, and I like listening to audio books. Um, I'll tell you one guy I like. A guy called David Goggins.
Okay.
You heard
What
of
is it?
him?
Yeah.
Right. So David Goggins. I like stories. I like kind of people of, you know, I like people that have done stuff. Like David Goggins, if you Google him, he's on a lot of podcasts. He's amazing. When he was brought up, right, he's an American guy. He's a black guy from America, and he was brought up in a kind of mostly kind of white kind of place, and he get loads of racial abuse growing up. His dad was an arsehole. His dad beat him up. Growing up. All this racial abuse, going to school, and his mum had to take him away. He thought he might get killed and stuff like that from his dad. It was really bad, but his story's amazing. And despite that, he joined the Navy SEALs and stuff like that. And just his whole story of, because when he went into the Navy SEALs, he wanted to join the SEALs, which is like the hardest guys in the world. When they first turned up, he said, I want to join, but he was overweight. He was like enormous, a big fat guy. He was overweight, and the officer that interviewed him, he laughed at him. And I think he said there was only a handful of black guys actually made into the Navy SEALs. But he said, right, if you come back in like 2 months or something, and you've lost this amount of weight, which is probably impossible, we'll give you a chance. So he went away and trained like a bastard for months. He just trained like a bastard. He come back, ripped, lost a lot of weight, and he get in. And his stories are amazing. Like he ran a 100-mile race with no training and stuff like that. Because he wanted, he does the training now, but he just decided to do a 100-mile run. And at one point, he got to like 70 miles. At this point, he was pissing blood. It was fucked. Right? He was pissing blood. He couldn't walk and stuff like that. And he was almost going to give up, but he still managed to run the other 30 miles after pissing blood and shit like that. And I'm like, so he's took his body from. He says what he says was, I think, is amazing. He said if you get to a point, it could be an exercise or kind of mental kind of stuff. You get to a point where you think you're done.
Right.
It could be writing, it could be running, it could be working out in the gym, it could be anything that's kind of mental. He says when you get to a point where you think you're done, he reckons at that point you've only done 40%.
Right. I think that's a typical Navy SEAL kind of attitude. Like you can do a lot more.
Aye. It was amazing though. So he thinks, right, I'm done. But no, you're not. You've only done 40%. You've still got another 60% at the back in there.
Wow. Imagine how productive would be in life if we went about this with our studying or with anything we're doing or with gym.
Aye.
Wow.
And you know, I'm trying. I know just by saying that, I realise now that I'm still a lazy bastard. I know that I need to push myself. And I think even doing things like this, talking about it, kind of goes, okay, I need to fucking do some shit.
Yeah, I think everybody of us has some things that we're not good at. I think from a metaphysical point of view, I think that's why we're here to like work on stuff and become better human beings, better souls. So
definitely.
How would you say that working on yourself has changed your comedy?
I totally would, because I think where I want to go now, Matt, is completely different. Because before, when I started, I'm doing a graph. This is like the COVID graph. When I started here, there's loads of deaths, but most of them are made up, and then so it's down here. So when I started, it was all kind of, you know, a bit like when I do my workshop, the newer people, they want to talk about filth, which is fine, like masturbation and shit like that, all that kind of stuff. But then, so now I want to kind of get more, get a message across a bit. So I want to use the stuff I've learned to write material, because at the moment I'm working on a project which I've kind of started, the fuck it list thing. I told you about that. But I want to just do things I've got a list of things that I want to do, like challenges.
Is it like a bucket list or
Aye.
yeah, okay.
It's like a bucket list, but I've called it a fucket list because I think sometimes you can think too much about doing something. See if there's something you want to do, Matt,
Yeah.
and you never hold back. Like you've not done your first gig yet, right?
Right.
So if you do your first gig, you could be scared. You go over the fear. You go, shit, I don't want to do that. What if I look stupid? But as soon as you go, fuck it, and do it, I think it's just like a trigger. You go, fuck it, and you just do it. So
Right.
that's why I called it the fuck it list. Because sometimes just saying the two words gives you that push to do it.
Right. You're just like, fuck it, let's just do it, and
Aye,
whatever happens,
aye,
happens.
aye, exactly.
Yeah, so if I come back to Glasgow, I'll do that.
Yeah,
I'll do my first stand-up gig
do
and
it, man. I'll help you out.
just die in my hole on stage and
Exactly.
just be okay. If I
Aye.
get one laugh, it'll be fine.
Awesome. If you get a laugh, aye, that'll be good.
Yeah. Um, so um, so it's evolved from my so your whole stand-up routine is now the bucket list, which is basically you're talking about things that you want to do or things that you did do, or both.
I'm developing it, so I've kind of I'm writing, kind of working on how I'm going to do it. I want to do it as a project, so I want to do it for my social media stuff. So
Mm,
I want to have the list of stuff to do, and I'll be able to kind of talk about it. I'll do videos on the things I'm doing, which I want to use to put out on social media to increase my audience.
right, of course.
Of course, it's not just about that. If I do something difficult and I do a video, if I can get one person to kind of go look at that and go, you know what, I could probably do something as well. So it's not just about me doing stuff, it's about maybe pushing people to do stuff as well.
Right. So you could start a YouTube channel or something and
Aye,
have people like it would be kind of feel good show basically. You'd be like, oh,
aye. So that's
let's
the
do.
idea. So if I go out and do like a bungee jump or something, I'll kind of do the fear, even shitting myself, doing it, and how I feel after it, that kind of stuff, and maybe do something funny about it.
I think
Just the fact
that's
I'm
a
going
good
out there and
idea.
do it. Aye,
Well, maybe this show will help you. Well, not right now, it's really small, but who knows? And maybe it will
aye,
be promote your stuff, you know.
aye. Even small things, Matt, like you doing a podcast is like a small thing, like for you as well, but it could build. But you probably had doubts about doing it.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
You kind of go.
Tremendous.
So I'm guessing that you would kind of go. Um, right, I want to do a podcast. Right, I want to do a podcast because there's interesting things I want to talk about. Then the doubts will come in. You go, who the fuck's going to watch that? You know that shit. Who's going to watch my shit? Who's
Yeah,
interested in me? I'm just this useless cunt. You start thinking that these voices going on. I'm
yeah,
a piece of shit. Nobody gives a fuck about what I have to say. And then you'll go, who's going to want to be on a podcast with me?
yeah.
You start imagining all the rejection. You know, I'll ask this guy, he's not going to be interested. This woman's not going to be interested in doing a podcast with me. And it's stupid. But then once you actually do it, you find it's, it's all right.
Right. Because then if you think that it can happen, you won't even ask certain people.
Aye,
Well, I think you have to like go beyond the comfort zone. And I've gotten yes from some people that I wouldn't think I'd get a yes from. So
awesome. Aye.
it's well, it's weird and well, it's crazy in a good way. You know, it's like wow.
And you know what? I think most people, like when that was, I've not done many podcasts, but people ask me, I'll go, yeah, because most people want to talk about themselves. Because we're all egotistical, and for somebody asking us about our life, you go, oh, somebody's actually interested in talking to me.
Right.
With a
Right.
podcast, I think most people want to do it, and it
Right.
promotes people.
Right. That's my intention. One of the intention is to promote people that do positive work. So I try to have different voices, and I've had a lot of healers, but I think comedy is underrated because I think having a sense of humor is very important. And I don't know if you're aware of. I think we talked about past life regression, and I think you said that past life regression is now one of your
I
bucket
totally
list.
wrote that down actually. I'll write it down again because I forgot. Because that, do you know what, Matt? It's not. It's part of the reason I want to do the bucket list is I want to do stuff that I don't want to do.
Right.
It's not just things that I want to do. If somebody suggests something, and like the past life regression, I find sounds interesting, but I wouldn't have thought about it. So the idea is, if somebody says you should do this, if like past life regression seems all right, if somebody says something, and my initial reaction is fuck that, that means I should probably do it.
Okay, but I don't suggest you should say yes to everything. What if somebody says you should change your gender and you're like,
No, no, there's a limit. There's a limit.
is
I just
that right?
get my scissors. Aye, aye. So there is obviously limits. Uh, cut your head off. Okay, way.
Yeah, right. It has to
Aye,
be
there's
has
limits.
to be still what you perceive is to be positive, even though it's kind of weird,
Yeah.
right? That's the cutoff, right?
Aye. So if it's weird, but if it has a positive outcome. But if
Right,
somebody says go out in a killing spree, I went, no, you're all right.
right,
Stuff
right,
like that.
right.
So aye, so it has to be limits. But something that I would. So if somebody says something that um become an opera singer or something, like I can't sing, and so I go fuck, so stuff that's just totally ridiculous.
Right, but you could improve your voice by training. I've seen
Aye,
people on YouTube that well, they trained for years and then they had no voice in the year zero, and then year six they're like a voice coach. I'm like, wow,
yeah.
that's commitment every day.
See, that might be one for me because my I'm a terrible singer. So that I'll write it down, Matt. You've given me this. So past life regression.
And a voice coach.
regression. Oh, aye. I actually know somebody that does that, so I'm going to look into
Right.
that.
Oh, what I wanted to say about past life is that I heard a story that this guy had a past life in another planet, not here, and that it was a race of not humans, but whatever it was. But the thing was they had no sense of humor, none.
Yeah, man.
Man, that was like when I heard that I was like, wow, that's the biggest suffering you can imagine, man.
He lived in a planet where there was no comedy clubs.
Yeah, or even maybe comedy would be illegal if somebody said a joke because everything's so serious.
That
You know
sounds
what I
like
mean?
that sounds like a great laugh. I like to go there, try to crack jokes. They're going, what is this?
Yeah. Do you find that, speaking on a personal level, do you find that people that have no sense of humor, do you find them to be slightly dangerous?
Dangerous. Uh, like, do you think they're serial killers and stuff, Matt?
I don't know. I think it's a good indicator. If some To me, okay, the opposite way. If somebody has a good sense of humor, to me, it's not like humor like, oh, you're making fun of other people, but it's like genuine, like lighthearted humor,
Yeah,
or then I think it is a good sign.
yeah.
And the opposite extreme, if somebody has zero of that and they're totally serious, I would think, well, that's weird.
As I wouldn't say dangerous. Maybe could be. There is people though that that have you ever met somebody you think is too happy? You ever met these people that are too happy, and I find them scary. You see people that whistle, these overly jolly people, people that are happy at 5 in the morning, 5 a.m. These people that are just too happy, they scare me. There's a few guys I used to work with. Are just too chip like and shitty jobs I had, and they're just far too chippy at like 6 a.m. And at that time in the morning, I I can't function. And I think these people are serial killers. I don't trust them. So I'd rather have somebody that's no sense of humour at that time in the morning than somebody that's just too fucking happy.
Right. I don't know. Maybe some people, even though there's a job that's basic, very basic, maybe they enjoy it. Because I've had times when I enjoyed like dishwashing jobs, even though it's not a good job. But there were times when I enjoyed the banter in the job. So it's like it's not just a job, but sometimes there's like banter and like there's other stuff. There's music you can listen to sometimes.
If you've got good company with you, that's aye, good
Yeah.
people and stuff.
Do you have any social media that people or website that people can reach you? So, because I'm always trying to get plugged in people.
Um, I've not got a website at the moment. I'm working on doing a new one because I had one before. It was a what was it? Can't remember. I used one with the plugins and all that. What do you call that?
I'm
WordPress.
not a,
It was a
sorry.
WordPress. It had a
Ah,
WordPress
okay.
website, and I started to get loads of viruses and shit on it, and
Oh
I
man.
couldn't fix it. So people would go on my website and they would get like advertisements for Viagra and shit
Oh
like that. And
no.
I go on
Oh,
porn sites. I was like, what the fuck? So I had to get rid of that. So I'm now working on a new one. I don't have a website for it yet, but I'll get that soon. But I've got my Facebook. It's Obi Comedian, OBIE Comedian. I've got Instagram with the same, Twitter. Like Facebook's my most one.
right, right, right.
I want to do
I'll
more on Instagram
I'll
and
put that link for the Facebook
aye,
on the video and on YouTube.
cool. I
Um,
got YouTube as well, so
okay, okay, I'll put those. So, do you think now that in this COVID times, do you think Zoom like video like that comedy is a feature, or do you think you'll never measure up to the live comedy basically?
you can do stuff like I think it's different. So I want to do more videos for like my Facebook channel and YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
but it's different than doing stand up. Because I think because you do stand up, you're speaking to like a room full of people.
Yeah,
So the way you speak is different. You're interacting more. But I think like doing my Facebook videos, I'm finding now that I think a few people have said, imagine you're speaking to one person. You know, so when you're speaking to a crowd, you're speaking to a crowd. You're more
right.
open. But like just now, I'm talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Then that'll go out to like 12 people or whatever.
Right.
So they don't go out to more people. So, but they get the kind of the one-to-one interaction.
Yeah.
So I think if when I'm doing videos on my phone for my Facebook or whatever, it's like talking to one person. So you get more of a connection with the people you're talking to. So it's totally
Mm-hmm.
different. But speaking to a crowd, there's a different vibe to it, I think.
Yeah, it's much better. Like I hope that it returns that it would be able.
I think there's gigs allowed soon. I think. Um,
Okay.
I'm actually doing a gig tonight. It's not
Oh,
like a live. It's like an online gig, but there's going to be 3 cameras there. So there's going to be people there working the cameras and a few people about. So there's going to be actually people I can kind of interact with a bit.
wait, so you're going to a location and then there's gonna be just three cameras and that's it?
Aye,
Wow.
there's going to be people working the cameras as well,
Right, right,
though.
right, right.
The guys that I usually do the festival with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a PBH Free Festival guys. So they're putting on a couple of days in Edinburgh where loads of comedians will come in and do stuff. So I'm doing something tonight and something tomorrow, which is cool.
Oh, that's amazing. So you're starting that because you need, I think in life, with all the things you do, you need momentum. Because
Aye.
if you haven't done comedy in a while, if you haven't done stand up in a while, then it's harder to get back, right?
Oh yeah, it'll be a bit rusty, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know, any comedian, the best comedians in the world, if they've not done it for a while, they'll be a bit rusty. It's like anything. Like I remember, like 2 years ago, I got a car, but before that, I hadn't drove for a few years,
Hmm.
just because of finances and stuff. So I got a car for the first time in a few years, and I was quite rusty. Just driving again, I was quite nervous, sort of reverse parking and stuff. It was
Right.
kind of difficult, but I mean, after a few weeks, it was fine. It was just anything, any sport. If you play golf, if you've not played for a while, you're a bit shit.
Right. So your message would be to for people, what would you be our inspirational message? Just do the things you're afraid to do, basically. Put
Oh, if you
yourself
want
out
the
there.
message from me, aye, aye, right. So don't take advice from people that have never done what you want to do. I think that's important.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Aye.
Exactly.
No, I definitely think that's a thing, man. Like like you probably had people giving you advice on your podcast who's never actually done a podcast.
Yeah, there's a few.
What you
But
should do is
yeah.
you should do this. Like, ah, shut up, just do it. So, and comedy is like, it's like this is true. Comedy is the only thing where loads of my mates give me advice on comedy. People in the audience give you advice after the gig, and
Right.
they've never done it. That's like it's like me giving relationship advice when I'm shit at relationships. You know, it's like me. It's like you phoning me up and saying they've got a trouble with this girl. I was like, don't ask me, Matt. I've got no fucking idea, mate. So it's like ask somebody that's done it. You know, there's loads of people who give you advice on stuff, but
Right.
they've
Like
never ever done anything.
I think a good example would be somebody asking how to make a million, somebody that's already made a million versus a financial advisor.
Exactly, because
Right.
like a financial advisor is usually an employee. They're
Yeah.
working for somebody.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody who's made a few million, it's like I don't know where you're from. In Scotland, they have what is it? The business enterprise, which is like an organisation where if you want to start, and I've been a few times over the years. You want to start a business, you go there for advice.
Hmm.
But what I've found from it, I went in, 'cause the way when I first went in, I always have loads of ideas. I go, I've got this idea, and I go in, and the people that are giving me advice in there, they've never run a business in their life. They just work there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of go, right, okay, you're working as an employee for this place, giving somebody advice on how to run a business, and you're on a payroll. There's nothing wrong with being on a payroll, but you know, it's not really.
Right.
I want to be an entrepreneur, you know, so it's a bit crazy.
You need a mentor that has
Ah,
been and done that.
aye. I think that's what's good about one of the reasons I want to do the podcast as well. Matt, I want to do a podcast as well. You've kind of given me a wee incentive as well, Matt, because I've seen you doing it. So that
Right.
you know, I think like you doing a podcast, right? And you've got to me in a way that eh, when I watch you do it, I go, that's quite cool. Matt's doing a podcast, and I'm kind of going, well, I should actually get my finger out and do one myself.
Hmm.
So the fact that you've done that has actually helped me.
Oh, that's amazing.
Aye, exactly. So if you do something that only helps one person, you've you've it's been worthwhile.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't think of that. That it
But
might.
it's cool. And what was the other thing I heard? Aye, so there's a guy who I like listening to called Kyle Cease.
Okay.
Right, he's a mate. I just not like him. He was a comedian years ago. But he ended up getting into kind of personal development stuff, kind of more of the kind of living in the moment type stuff. He's worth listening to. I'll send you some links.
Hmm.
But he said, what was one of the things he said? Right, if you do something, you've got loads of people doubting you and stuff like that.
Yeah. Always.
You know, you get your family do it, friends do it. I don't think they do it in a bad way. They do it because they're scared. if they done it, they're kind of projecting their fears out to you.
Right.
So, you know, for example, when I started doing comedy, people say, "What would happen if they don't laugh?" And I go, "Well, nothing, nothing happens. You feel like
Exactly.
shit for a week, then you learn."
You
But
just move on.
they're projecting their fears onto you. So, this guy, one of the things he said that just kind of hit me when if you do something out your comfort zone, you're actually helping the people that doubt you, right? So if people kind of go, "What makes you think you can do this?" So if say I do, I don't know, if I start a podcast and people go, "Oh, you can't do that," people that doubt me, they go, "What's he doing?" If I do it, then they actually see it going well. It actually gives them a boot up the arse as well. So the people that doubt you, they're not doing it because they hate you. They're doing it because their own fears.
Right.
They might
Well,
actually give them an incentive and go, "Oh, maybe he was right," but you're
right.
changing their mind.
Or maybe some of it is envy as well. Even when you
Oh,
make it,
totally. I've got a
some are
fly.
like.
There's a fly about here. That's how I was doing that. Right.
That's natural comedy. There's a fly.
This is me actually getting heckled by a fly.
Yeah. The fly is yelling, "You suck."
Shit. I just landed at me and go, "You're shit. You'll never do a podcast. This is the worst podcast I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah, it's
It's
because
dead.
the fly is afraid. The fly is
Scared man. He said, "When's Matt going to do his first gig?"
afraid.
Tell me, get over himself and come to Glasgow and do his first gig.
All right, so on this good note, I think we'll end it here. Here
Right.
he is, John O'Brien. Thank you for being on the show.
Or Obi.
Or Obi. There you go.
Obi.
Comedy Obi.
Is that us done an hour, Matt?
Yeah, that was
That was
on an hour.
awesome.
Thank you for listening, and if you're watching, thank you for watching. Thank you.
All right, thanks, man. Thank you.